The first time I realized my husband was planning to divorce me, my chest felt like it had been hollowed out. I could see it in his eyes, calculated, distant, almost cold. 1 week later, I moved my $400 million in assets. And the look on his face when he realized what I had done, priceless. If you've ever felt the sting of betrayal and dreamed of poetic justice, hit subscribe right now. Like this video. Comment below if you've ever had someone try to underestimate you. Because today, you're going to witness how I turned betrayal into power. I'll never forget the day it all started. On the surface, our marriage looked perfect: wealth, social status, the kind of life everyone else envied. But perfection is often just a mask. I had started noticing the small things: sidelong glances at lawyers, websites on his phone, hush phone calls he would abruptly end when I entered the room, an irritability that seemed misplaced for someone who supposedly loved me. It hit me in a moment of quiet paranoia. He was planning to divorce me. And not just divorce. A divorce that would leave me powerless. I had spent years building not just our life, but my assets: carefully curated investments, private holdings, companies I owned but operated quietly in the background. Everything he could ever touch, everything he thought he could claim, was about to slip through his fingers. I didn't scream. I didn't confront him immediately. I didn't cry. I watched. I observed. There's a certain clarity that comes when you are confronted with betrayal. Your mind sharpens, instincts kick in, and the faintest details become glaring truths. I knew I needed a plan. Not just any plan. A surgical strike. For 1 week, I watched him move through our shared life as if nothing were wrong. He made jokes, held my hand in public, and smiled like a man confident in his scheme. Inside, I was a storm: calculating, deliberate. I started moving my assets. Everything had to be untraceable, airtight, and irreversible. Offshore accounts, legal trusts, shell companies, complex holdings that even the most aggressive divorce attorney would struggle to unravel quickly. I remember the moment I finalized the last transfer. I sat back in my chair, hands slightly trembling, not from fear, but from adrenaline. The weight of $400 million shifted in ways that could never be reversed. I had done it. I had won before the battle even began. Then, just as I anticipated, he filed. The papers arrived on a crisp Monday morning, a thick envelope stamped with legal urgency. My first reaction was an almost childlike glee. He had no idea. Every claim he made about assets, every assumption about my dependence on our joint holdings, all shattered in an instant. The panic on his face when he realized the truth is something I will never forget. He called me, voice shaking in a way I had never heard before. Where did it go? He stammered. He didn't even try to be rational. His mind, the same calculating mind that had plotted my downfall, was unraveling like a house of cards. I let him stew. I let the silence speak louder than any words. There's a subtle art to revenge: letting the other person feel every ounce of their miscalculation, letting them see the consequences of underestimating you. As he scrambled, I watched from my penthouse, sipping my morning coffee. The city outside felt alive, almost mocking, as if it too knew the story was no longer about him but about my liberation. Emails, calls from his lawyer, frantic messages. I read them all without responding. I didn't need to. Panic is a language everyone understands. For days he tried to trace, to argue, to claim, but every path he took ended in dead ends. Legal notices bounced. Funds were in places untouchable, strategically hidden behind layers of legal safeguards. I wasn't just winning. I was teaching a masterclass in control. And then came the social fallout. Friends, family, even business associates, people who had quietly sympathized with him began to notice. Whispers turned to questions. How did she? They asked, and I let them wonder. There's something intoxicating about quietly flipping the power dynamic. In private moments, I allowed myself reflection. This wasn't just about money, it was about respect. About proving that I was never powerless. It was about showing that underestimation is often the most dangerous weapon a betrayer can wield. And perhaps most importantly, it was about reclaiming my own narrative. I didn't stop at financial victory. I let him think there could be negotiation, reconciliation, even some semblance of control. Each move he made to gain leverage was countered by another, more sophisticated strategy I had set into motion. It was chess, and he was playing without realizing the board had been reset. I also watched his personal life unravel subtly. Where he had counted on appearances, he now faced scrutiny. Where he thought charm and intimidation would protect him, he found only cold reality. Pride, ego, and overconfidence, the very traits that had driven him to betray me, became his undoing. One particularly telling moment, he sent a text meant to intimidate, trying to provoke me into a legal misstep. I let it sit unread for hours. When I finally replied, it was precise, unemotional, and devastating in its implication. I've already moved everything. Anything else you claim is yours is technically gone. Consider your panic your answer. It wasn't vengeance born of cruelty. It was a demonstration of principle. Justice doesn't always need to be loud. It often works best when quiet, inevitable, and perfectly timed. By the second week, the reality of the situation set in for him. Lawyers stopped calling me. He had nothing to claim. Friends whispered, relatives questioned. His confidence dissolved. I, meanwhile, felt a peace I hadn't realized I'd been missing. Not the thrill of retaliation, but the calm satisfaction of having outmaneuvered someone who had sought to undermine me. The psychological high of that moment is difficult to describe. It's a combination of relief, triumph, and a strange serenity. I could finally breathe. The storm of betrayal that had once consumed me transformed into a clear sky, with me standing firmly in the center, unshaken. And the most satisfying part, watching him panic, not in public spectacle, not in confrontation, but quietly, personally, as he realized he had misjudged me completely. The fear, the regret, the dawning awareness of his miscalculation, it was all mine to witness. Legally, ethically, perfectly executed. In the end, he had nothing, nothing to claim, nothing to leverage, and nowhere to turn. I didn't gloat in person. I didn't post online. The revenge wasn't performative, it was absolute and private. The kind that leaves a permanent mark without a single unnecessary word. I learned something essential. Power is not about wealth, but control over your own destiny. And when someone tries to take that from you, cleverness, preparation, and patience can restore not only what is yours, but more importantly, your sense of agency. Life doesn't always hand you justice on a silver platter. Sometimes it's up to you to protect what you've earned, to stand firm when others underestimate you. And when justice is served, it's not just about victory, it's about reclaiming your story. If you love this story of careful, calculated revenge, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and comment below what would you have done if betrayed like this. Share this with someone who appreciates poetic justice, because stories like this remind us that respect and intelligence are always powerful allies.